Hello. If you didn't know, this is my setup, and I'm gonna be talking about it today because I haven't really talked about my setup since I moved like a year and a half ago, and that video has like 40,000 views. And this video is just gonna be me like nerdily talking about music gear. So if you're like, I don't really care, completely understandable. But for myself, Mr. Wobbles or Austin, this is what I really enjoy doing a lot of the time, and I find myself completely renovating my studio and how I operate every single like 1 or 2 years. And this past year when I moved from California to South Dakota, I really wanted to get a computer sponsor and a computer that could possibly run my music while also being like completely contained within the same environment that I do games and stuff. Because my biggest issue and why I didn't really produce a lot of music for a long time was like having a multi-computer setup is really annoying when you're trying to like produce, and I have 15 different USB setups that need to go to one thing and then need to go to the other. So having it all in one environment is great, and I happen to use Zydax for that. Zydax.com, code Wobbles, 3% off. Amazing computers. And we'll start here. This is my computer. Has a 3090. It's completely water cooled. It has I think an Asus Creator motherboard. An i9, the very new i9. It has I think it has 72 gigabytes of DDR5, and then it has just so much crazy storage. Actually, it's kind of insane. And then I add a USB card to that because, simply put, you need more bandwidth when you're running so many instruments. This is my old setup. We'll talk about that later and why I switched from it. But yeah, so this goes into this, and then I have this, which is the UAD X6 Apollo. And then on top of this, I have the Audient SR800, I believe, which is a ADAT expansion bay, which adds more preamps if I need them, which I don't really need right now. But I bought it anyways when I was making quite a bit of money off Twitch, because I was like, hey, if I ever have like a band or anyone come over, this is going to be awesome for it. So I use a UAD X6. I need more processing power. I'll probably get a satellite eventually, but this is amazing for what I currently use it for, which is UAD's latency-free plugins. And I'll explain why that's so important. But this thing has been great. I use it pretty much on everything. It's amazing as in terms of their preamps, and what they have to offer is kind of unbeatable in terms of their software. So I'll kind of come up here and we'll go there. So first of all, I use Console for a lot of my things, and my favorite thing that I use ever is called C-Suite Vox, and I just pretty much use this for everything. It allows basically algorithmic noise processing that reduces noise, which for me, if I was trying to do that in Ableton directly, I would get latency. And I don't like latency. It's like the worst thing ever, especially when you're beatboxing and you're trying to do like on a loop. If you have latency during that, you're pretty much gonna throw your loop off, and then it's gonna throw everything off, and it'll sound off key or off tune, or just off tempo, and that's not something I'm very interested in. So now we're gonna get into why I use Ableton. I have been using Ableton as a live production software for a minute. I started off looping, wanting to loop in Ableton, and I don't loop in Ableton actually. What I do is my computer to UAD, I put all my analog gear into Ableton, and then I send Ableton out to my loop station. And the reason why I like the hardware looper, which is the RC505 MK1, is because it's clueless. You can just do it. It always works. It's seamless in terms of the free measure capabilities. And Ableton has a lot of issues with first loop capabilities, and everything is if you really want it to be good on Ableton, you kind of have to pre-program everything. So that's why I like the hardware looper, is I just have freedom. I'm not attached to a click at all times, so I could find different beats within the tempo that probably wouldn't be available said with a metronome in my ear at all times. Also, if I'm playing games, I don't really want to hear a metronome all the time, so I have that. But I'll show you my Ableton template. And this is probably the most difficult thing I do, but I go through, I have all these different setups. So if you look here, I have vocals, I have an instrument rack, and that has, orchestra, it has pianos, it has Rhodes, it has organs, it has EPROM style bass, which is my favorite bass. I fucking learned it from him, but I watched a video on how to do that. It's so sick, dude. He's so cool. Bass stack, electric keys, leads. You have your sequencers and you have your pads, and then I have like, you know, separate settings for like if I want to do a DJ set, I can activate that. I have a drum rack that I activate right here, which is using my MIDI fighter, which I just. So I have everything kind of pre-programmed into this, and then how I play typically is I have this all set up to different like parameters, right? So if I wanted to add like a filter, I have a DJM filter on the master, right? So I have this thing called a DJM filter X64, and I could literally just be like, right? And I could be like, so I have this all, like every single parameter on this, which is a Native Instruments S61 MK1, I have completely like differentiated for different things, right? So you can have like 5 to 6 pages of CCs on this, and literally I'll just sit here and I have like different CRM macros, and I sit here on every single one of these lines you see, and I program every single thing into this. So like for this, I have a transpose key, and I had to go to every single one of these, put in a pitch shifter, and then key it to this on every single separate line. I have like my wet voice for like wet reverb, and I set a MIDI macro, so when this goes up past like a certain point, it activates the reverb. So like if I wanted the reverb to be quieter, I could do this, but if I wanted to turn it off, I would just turn it off all the way. Same with like any of these are like side parallel reverbs. This is like the, you know, my voice loudness if I'm sitting there making a song. And the problem with this is sometimes it gets really jumbled. Then I can turn my voice up, and you could hear me over the mix that I currently am having on this, and I can cut through my mix. So, you know, I'll kind of show you this a little bit. These are all like, I have this all set up. So these are like voice effects. These are like main channel master effects. This is like all analog gear ins, so I could turn this on. This is like, this is gonna be, I think this is gonna be analog gear effects, and then this is gonna be guitar with different guitar types. So I'll do like archetype Pliny, archetype Goja, you know, I'll do a guitar rig setup and then an acoustic setup. And then this is gonna be your mom. I'm just kidding, I don't know what that's gonna be. But these are all basses, these are all just usually leads or bass effects. Like, you know, I'll put like micro shift on the master chain on the basses, and then I'll have this be like, and then this is all my, you know, pianos and stuff, and my strings. And then people are asking what this is. This is a Rolly light pad, or a Rolly block actually. And what I did is I found this thing called ML Distance right here. And it's not working right now because I recently like switched the MIDI CCs on this, and I need to do that. It's really easy fix in their software. I'm just super lazy. But basically, as you can see, this is a, it's called ML Distance. It's a Max for Live plugin. And what it does is I've mapped it so that I could be like, if I put my finger right here, my voice is completely in the center and it's mono, but then I can like bring it this way, and then literally like my voice will come wherever this is, and then it'll be like on the left, but like the volume dump will be like -6 right here, but then it'll be -10 right here. So then you can create this like kind of big stereo depth, which is something that I feel like is very much missing in, you know, just my mix in general, but also when I'm doing anything on this, it's so hard to like pan and think like I need to, you know, you should always actively be using the stereo field when you're using a looper. And this thing is probably the easiest and most visual way for me to do that. And I happen to, you know, this is something I've been wanting to do for a long time, and I just kind of didn't do it for a while. And then when I switched from my Mac to PC, I like did a lot of things that I know I'm going to use for a long time, because eventually what I'm going to do is I'm going to pay someone a lot of money to like create this setup, but have it be like super integrated into, let's say, Ableton, and then I can loop within Ableton without this loop station. So let's talk about this loop station. Basically, everything goes in out from, you know, this. I have a left-right out from my UAD X6, and that goes into one of these bad guys. It's called a radial stage bug, SB6 isolator. My speech impediment's coming through, that's sick. Stagebug isolator actually, and what it does is it reduces ground lift in stereo inputs and outputs, so I get a lot of ground buzz in everything that I've ever done, and it kind of sucks. So I tend to have I think I have 4 or 5 of those, and those things are great for that. And I put it into this, so all that you just saw in Ableton is completely linked to this now. And then I send this out to a Allen and Heath ZFX. And the reason why I use this is actually my this is my headphone mix. So I have a left right in that comes directly from here, which is my desktop, so I can hear my computer audio, and then I have a left right in from here so I can hear my music audio, and then I tend to just kind of mix it how I want it. And then this goes out into a THX AA789, which is right here, and then I have, this is like my headphone amp, and I just make this because it adds a lot of headroom, and my headphones just need to be amplified, so I use this for that. I got it off Drop a long time ago when it first came out. And then these are my babies. These are I waited 2 years for these to be made. These are ZMF Icons. They're made by Zach at ZMF. Amazing headphones. I think they're the most comfortable closed headphones I've ever had. And the reason why I need closed is just because I'm obviously always kind of using closed headphones because I'm always monitoring myself when I'm singing and stuff, and I don't want bleed through. I use this for leads and pads and stuff, but I need to fix it because every time I open Ableton, it just decides that it has a mind of its own. So I'm gonna kind of fix that eventually. So yeah, that's at the moment, that's literally what my setup is. I use an Earthworks mic for all my microphone usage. I used to use an RE20, but Earthworks actually reached out to me and they wanted to sponsor me, and they've been really chill about everything. I love this. They have this really cool, what's it called? It's like a ball mount, I think, and it's really fun to use because a lot of the times my biggest issue with the frameworks and the Rode PSA1 and all this type of arms that people use is that you don't have the ability to kind of get your mic into the perfect placement. And I think all of their microphones come with this ball mount. So not only are their microphones absolutely amazing, they compete with the U47 and the FET in terms of that's what they used to do, was they were a professional microphone company that used to attack, or go for the bottom or the high end and provide way better quality sound at cheaper. But now they're trying to get against the SM7Bs and the RE20s, and they made this, which is called the Earthworks Ethos recently, and I just have been using it all year. It's amazing. I remember when I first got it, I didn't even need to mix it. It was amazing to me. I was like, damn, this thing is goated. So yeah, that's my full setup in terms of my analog gear. I mean, I also have these two things, which is, this is my my Sub 37 and my Sequential Prophet Rev 2. I really like this thing. I've used the same bass patch that I made 2 years ago for probably about a year or two, and I love how it sounds. I think it's one of the most full, straight to print type things you can own is a good synth. And the reason why I say that is because typically when you're producing music, my biggest issue with the digital space of always using Serum or always using Silent or anything is you can use presets and they sound great, but I just feel there's a lack of warmth, and you can obviously add that post mix and bouncing it out and adding artifacts and adding Saturn and adding stuff to it to kind of give it that digital warmth. But for me, I just really love how straight to print all these synths are for me. I use them a lot, and if you ever watch my streams or my videos or even my production streams, I'm always kind of messing with the same 20 presets on these things because I just get obsessed with them. In terms of my guitars, I have a Taylor. I got this from my dad when I was 17 because I broke my my main guitar. It's a 214 CE. When I was killing it on Twitch, I bought this, which is a Fender American Professional. I use that actually sparingly. I think it's too thin for me. There's dirty trash on the floor, so don't judge me, but I'll pick it up. I promise. That's my Gibson Studio. I did a stream for that where I shaved my eyebrows, and I managed to buy that at the end of the stream, and that thing is absolutely goated. I have this in here. This is a Precision P bass, just a basic normie you know, it's kind of just the simplest bass you could buy. I have this guy. This is a Kala Luna soprano acoustic, electroacoustic. I have a Mexican-made Strat. That was my first like guitar project. It was a lot of fun. I have all these too. Like I have a Keylab 88 MK2 that I bought and I just never really used, and it's such a nice thing, but I just don't use it. I have this thing, which is a Bon Tempe pipe organ, which I plan on sampling. I'm gonna do this video series where I'm gonna go thrifting and around South Dakota, and South Dakota Tourism is planning on hiring me, and I'm gonna make beats out of like random South Dakota thrift shops. So I'm currently in the product or in the stage of developing that idea. And then this is the complete 61 MK2. I don't really use this. This is the RC505 MK2, and as you can see, no, this is actually my other RC505 that I use. But I have an RC5. That's a guitar. That's a banjo. My ADHD is going off. This is my main vocal recording mic that I use like when I'm doing, you know, like vocals for people. It's a Neumann TLM 49, I believe. And what sucks about this microphone is like I don't know how to fix this thing. Like I don't know how to fix it. So it's always just kind of like just hanging. It's hanging loose. It's hanging loose, my guy. Yeah, so this is my DJ setup. I just have a DDJ 800 or 700. I really don't know. Yeah, actually it says right there. Literally, I should just probably pay attention. And then this is my MacBook. It's i9. I shaved my head and my eyebrows for that. And I looked like a mole rat for the first like 3 months of my, you know, dating my ex. So that was cool, you guys. Thank you for that. Down here, I have a Black Audio PG2, which is a power conditioner that I use. And then I have probably like 7 Morley hum exterminators. And I have a line conditioner from Furman, which basically just takes your power. And in case it's dirty, which most power is, especially in like residential areas that have like dated electronic code, you know, that'll just condition the line and make it so that your wattage and your continuous power transmission doesn't have a lot of electrical spikes, which I don't know how I know that, but I do. I have A7Xs, which are Atom Audio. They're amazing. I use those pretty much to mix everything, and I haven't had those for a long time, and I recently kind of said, you know what, screw it. I'm gonna set this up, and I'm gonna do it. Hurrah, you know. And my speakers have been great. Yeah, so I'm gonna talk about a few more things. So that's my full setup. I have everything that's analog linked into my UAD. I control it completely in Ableton. I can use any of these guitars anytime I want. As you can see, everything's routed through my UAD. I have not all the UAD plugins, but I have a lot of the really good ones, and I kind of use those, you know, as much as I can, because I feel like just the sonic qualities of UAD versus like a Waves plugin is kind of unreasonable sometimes. Like the only thing from Waves that I actually ever use is like Infected Mushroom Pusher and like Shep's Parallel Particles, maybe a few other things. So yeah, so that's my studio, where it's at right now. I'm gonna talk a little bit about why I switched from PC to MacBook, and the main reason actually is very weird. When you use USB on the RC505, which is my loop station, I want to be able to sync the clock of that to Ableton. And I used to have to do this very weird workaround where I MIDI synced my RC505 to another RC505, and then I put that USB into my MacBook when it was my music computer, and then had a USB that was into my PC and use it as an audio interface. And that was such a weird setup, and there were so many issues with it. Like for instance, if I wanted to run the sequencer on this, which is MIDI gated and tempo locked as a slave to my RC505, then I would have to like press play on the second RC505 in order for this sequencer to start, and it just got really weird. And I also like wanted my voice effects, like if I have a slicer or a transgate or, you know, delay, and I want the delay to be on like a 4th measure or an 8th measure, I didn't want to use the RC505's internal effects, because I feel like the RC505 has this horrible issue where there's a limiter on it. So if it gets louder, it like makes it louder in the RC505 sometimes when you use the effects, and then those effects like cause a lot of artifacting on the sides, like 50 left and right. So you get this horrible issue where like sometimes I'll be playing music and I could just hear like crackling on the sides, even though in front of me it's great, and even though my original output signal is completely clean. I just don't like how the RC505 handles effects. So, you know, being in Ableton is a big deal for me, and being out like completely on one computer made it so that I could have all those effects. I made it so that I could absolutely like, you know, always have a tempo sync. I made it so that I can quantize my sequencers and have my sequencers, you know, be directly in time with my RC505. It also made it so that I could record everything completely in the box, and also I could have one computer, which has like completely like changed my ability to change my setup, and also like made it so much easier for me to you know, basically just kind of chill about having to do music and stuff. I think my biggest issue and why I wasn't producing a lot, you know, past Stick Around, is I moved, right? And I went from having like a studio setup where I had a huge room. Remember, like I had Mr. Wobbles behind me and stuff. I moved and I had to like conserve everything, and I had my MacBook in the worst spot ever. It was like to the side of me, and everything was to the side of me, and like it didn't matter. Like it was harder to produce, and I would have to like, you know, switch on my USBs every time I wanted to like actually work on music and like focus on it, and it was just like not the move, man. And I just kind of got really annoyed with it, and I switched from Mac to Windows. And I guess some of the things I'll say about Windows is there's less updates. So, you know, if you have plugins that are like archaic, like, you know, Waves, or some of these people that will sell your plugins really cheap and then make you spend $100 million on them to update them, obviously Windows is so much more stable in that area. Whereas like Mac, man, I couldn't tell you. There was a point, and the main reason I was so scared of Mac is I bought my MacBook, and there came a point where like UAD was like, yo, we actually just like don't support the current MacBook setup, and we probably won't for like 3 to 4 months. So expect issues. And there were so many glitches and like crackleness and just like random stuff happening that I really wanted to switch to something that I could at least fix easily if I was, you know, having those issues, and having my PC, which has all my like peripherals that I really like at all times, and making it so I could just press like Alt Tab and just straight go to like Ableton and fix something, or reset it, or, you know, restart it, and then also like open up. There's just so much more reasons for me to be in Windows. And obviously if I ever start doing live shows, which weirdly enough is starting to happen, I have another completely separate but similar template that's in MacBook that's a lot more easy, doesn't have as much latency stuff, and is just basically mainly focused on having good quality sounds with the least amount of latency within Ableton, because you're always going to get latency in Ableton, but it is what it is, you know. So that's like where my setup is right now. I really have not been playing and like streaming as much as I probably should. And the reason being for that is like I really want to make like music, and I want to like have an album, because I think the biggest reason I got disillusioned from streaming and stuff was like I was doing all this shit and I had this like imposter syndrome, and I'm like friends with all these like people that are really solid and great content creators, and I just wasn't providing like content outside of just like being the funny music guy. And I know that like my music is pretty decent, so I kind of like focus on my live setup. I still am doing events on Twitch and doing stuff here and there, but I'm really like, if you watch my streams, if you just like watch me, like most every day now, I kind of work on music pretty much only. And this computer and this setup has made it so much more efficient for me to like be able to do that, you know. And having everything in one space is, I can't tell you how much it's not only increased my workflow, but like made me less stressed out about a lot of things when it comes to like what could go wrong, because it's so much easier to fix in the environment that I currently have. So that's like pretty much my full setup. A lot of people have been asking me like about the MK1 verse 2 on the RC505, so I'll kind of explain that real quick. The RC505 MK2 still has so many issues with like free looping. So what that means is being able to set the tempo, and then, you know, I'll kind of describe it really quickly to you, and it might not make sense. I need to throw this trash away or I'm gonna have an aneurysm. But like free looping means like, if you look at the tempo, it's 138, right? That's what it says right now. It's being able to be like, and then it goes to 121. And then you have this, like this first loop creates that. And then you could literally be like, and the problem with the RC505 MK2 is that I have to go every time. I can't have like a singular sound that's a quarter note. It has to be like a measure. And that's annoying to me as a free looper and someone that doesn't really use a click. And also just, I feel like the click on the RC505 MK2 is off. And it just has a lot of issues. And a lot of people that do looping and like a lot of the beatboxers that I know, you know, have explained it, and we all kind of understand it and have given a lot of feedback to Boss. And I think they're going to come back and actually like fix it eventually. I think they're going to come out with an update maybe in like a week or two that addresses a lot of the issues. But the main reason that happens in the MK2 is because algorithmically they have a sequencer, and that was like their biggest thing was like including a algorithmic and or like a tempo locked sequencer. And in doing so, it messes up the ability for it to be a little bit more free, because then it has to lock in to like a, you know, a set, how do I describe this? Like a set tempo no matter what. So then like you're not controlling the instrument isn't forming to what you're doing. You have to form to what the instrument wants you and or thinks you're doing. And that's not something I like, and I'm not gonna sit here and shit on them, you know. I'm not gonna. They're also like the whole video I made where I was so mad about it. The reason why I was so mad is like I got back into music, and I redid my entire setup with the idea of using the RC505 MK2 when I got this new computer, and literally like everything was done. I mixed it perfectly for the RC505 MK2. I had, you know, everything set up. I had the limiter settings on the RC505 MK2 done properly. I had, you know, all the USBs. I did so much work on that thing. People are like, you need to go in your program and if you set up FreeSync and stuff. I know what I'm doing, probably more than most, like 99.99% of people who are even gonna ever comment on this. So I did everything, and I got to that point, and I realized like, oh, this thing is actually just broken. And I wasn't the only person who realized that. B-Res, a lot of different loopers are in the same boat. So that's why I'm on the MK1. I don't like the MK1. The MK1 sucks because the limiter on it has a really big discrepancy, and you basically have to rather set the instrument volume to 25%, or you have to set your Ableton to -12 while keeping this at 100% in terms of the RC505's instrument volume. And it just sucks. It's just all over the place, and it just squashes everything. And I don't think my audio quality is as nice because I think it's only 16-bit float versus the 32 that the MK2 offers. And that was the big reason why I switched to that, is like, dude, I want better audio quality, and it just didn't work out. So is what it is, you know. Currently, I think my next steps for my studio, I'm probably gonna get a sub, so I can have 2.1, and I can start accurately like subbing and listening to my mixes with a sub, because I feel like, you know, not having a treated room, which I'm probably not gonna have until I buy a house, which I don't think is ever gonna happen at this point, kind of sucks, you know. And I kind of want to start focusing on DJing a bit more and like production, and I kind of want to like also eventually, and this is like my end goal, is I want to have something similar to Beardy Man and just kind of like have that freedom to create. And that's kind of the end goal of my studio, but I just don't have the connections or the people, or, you know, I'm not really even doing live shows, which I wish I did, because I think live shows curate a different type of energy where like you prove that you're really good to people, whereas online it's kind of like people get to choose to watch you, which is, you know, it's fine for me, but I feel like it's time that I start like focusing on the live aspect of what I can do, and that's a whole other video because I have a whole live setup that I'm working on as well. So that's what I've been doing. Basically, I'm a programmer who sometimes plays music. So thank you guys for watching this. I know that it was probably really long, kind of like my dick. So I hope you guys have a good night. I hope, you know, savez-vous. Merci beaucoup. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments. If you guys want to know a specific type of gear that I use, or if you want to know, you know, why do you do this? Or how do you set up the wires? What type of wires do you use? You know, any type of question you have for me, I'm actually probably going to try to answer it on this one. So if you want to go for that, go for it. If not, thank you for watching. And I feel like it's really weird that you watched this the entire time if you don't have any questions after that. So much love. Make sure to follow my Twitter, my Twitch, and my Spotify down below. Thank you.